here, near Budapest, competition became ever more fierce as machines attained greater speed.
This is no mere track race. The riders have to cross mountain streams and ride over the roughest of rough roads. There are plenty of crashes, but none of the competitors are seriously hurt. In spite of the rough run, most of them say they enjoy it thoroughly.
British motorcycles ruled the roost.
The nearer you get to the top, the more difficult the course seems to become. But it's all part of the day's work with these modern counterparts of the bronco-busting cowboy.
The British mood was triumphal.
The year that has just passed has seen war and rumors of war abroad. With our eyes fixed on the distant horizon, we have failed perhaps to notice the signs of returning prosperity at home. Booming industry brings more workers to the great industrial centers, brings in turn a boom to the housing industry, at present hardly able to keep pace with the demand. Humming puts railway traffic on the mend, and this latest streamlined engine is one more signal that the railways are in a better position than they have been for years past. With the added fillip of the supreme comfort offered by the Queen Mary, transatlantic traffic is moving up to new levels, and as our wonder ship comes into dry dock, she prepares for a season which may well break all records. In 1,000 interconnected ways, the warm blood of prosperity courses again through Britain's veins. And from end to end of the land, boom drums excitedly.
But the real test was just around the corner.
Men of the Eastern Command are out on a reliability run across some of the top country of Surrey, just to give them a little practice. From Wimbledon Common, they make for the climb up Box Hill, then at speed across Bagshot Heath for miles in gas masks up and down the Surrey Hills, and finally tests of acceleration and braking at Camberley. After 50 miles of this stuff, they'll have sore feet.
Petrol was at a premium, and the motorcycle had some advantages over the gas-guzzling car on both sides of the Atlantic.
Blame the U-boats. Blame Hitler's submarine attacks against Allied shipping for the petrol shortage. America, the biggest oil-producing country in the world, clamps down on private motoring for pleasure, limiting 8 million car owners to a small weekly allowance. The ration card system puts an end to the individual whose war effort amounts to flying a flag on the radiator of a limousine.
Okay, it's an A card, 3 gallons.
Petrol is for the frontliners. It's the driving force upon which every lorry, plane, and tank depends. It's the precious liquid which the armed forces need to cut loose on Hitler.
Demands of war saw men's domination of machinery in retreat.
At this motor transport training center for girls in the ATS, all the mechanical and driving instruction is given by women. No time now for affairs of the heart, unless it's the heart of a motor vehicle, the engine. The girls get a thorough working knowledge of a working model. At one moment up and over, the next down and under. They get a worm's eye view of the chassis, and at regular intervals give it a good greasing. Maintenance is an important item with ATS drivers, and the first essential is to know how the transmission works. A car is not much use unless the wheels go round. No, she's not stamping with rage. She's learning how to put on a tire cover. A hefty job even for a hefty girl. All set now for a driving test. On the way, a call at the filling station, where other girls work the pumps and check supplies. L for learner, lady, and maybe Lucy takes the road as a driver on probation. Besides driving, the girls learn how to find their routes by map reference. Before they pass out as qualified, they must do 10 hours solo driving. Some of them train as dispatch riders. Now, gently does it. Oh, well, of course, if you know better, Miss Farthingale. She's a trier anyway, and she's done it. But look at the finished product. Smart, efficient, and confident after only a few weeks' training. Most of the motor transport officers are motorcyclists, and all of them are good car drivers, too.
The peculiar requirements of war called for peculiar solutions, none more so perhaps than the cargo carried by these lightweight cylinders, which would be dropped thousands of feet by parachute.
One of the most interesting things the containers will hold is the folding motorbike. It looks like a toy, but it's a thoroughly practical job. No tools are necessary to rig it up for riding away. The manufacturer was required to design a machine weighing only 65 pounds, strong enough to stand the bump of a parachute drop, and sturdy enough to tackle the worst cross-country going. The numerous parts each bike consists of. They're mostly of alloy steel. The required range of 100 miles govern the size of the fuel tank. In use, each tank is sealed under pressure, ready for a quick start when the bike reaches ground. The machines must be capable of carrying a total weight of men and equipment up to 300 pounds. They must have a maximum speed of 35 miles an hour and be able to climb hills of bad surface. That was a specification bordering on the ambitious, but the manufacturers achieved it. The engine, of course, is a two-stroke, a simple and very reliable power unit, lubricated by oil mixed with the petrol. One virtue of the very smallness of the machine is that it gives a low riding position and therefore maximum cover. Well, this is the first glimpse we've had of airborne equipment in manufacture. Warwork News will return to the subject. The airborne arm is of paramount importance. The men and women who make the equipment know that they're giving the knockout blow to fascism and making freedom live.
The Blitz had removed some of the humor that attended the reports on women's contribution to the war effort, since the home front had also become a battleground.
Free from fear and easy on the eye are these girls of a commando school for NFS motorcycle dispatch riders. The girls are taught to do everything with a motorbike that can be done, and they, like their machines, can take it. But they're not taught to do tricks. This sort of riding shows their sense of balance, their confidence in themselves and their mounts. The first part of the training is comparatively easy, but it's just the beginning of a course that's very strenuous. But these girls are tough and they ride with a smile. The idea of the commando school is to reproduce the conditions of the worst kind of blitz. Most of the girls have had experience of the real thing, and here all that's missing is the noise of the barrage and the whistle of the bombs. This is practice in tackling the edge of a crater. One of the many important things they learn is how to fall without risk of injury. Whoever said that mud was thicker than water spilled a swampful. The girls learn to take their bikes diagonally over timber obstructions. Jumping practice. They start on upraised banks. Then comes the next best thing to leaping over a blazing gas main. The girl dispatch rider and her message must get through. Girls who, before they joined the service, were dressmakers and typists, are today daredevil riders and skilled mechanics. Fearless, but still feminine, and still fond of the cup that cheers. So, cheers, girls.
Once out of uniform, many women weren't content to return only to their traditional roles at home. They had tasted freedom and excitement during the war, and wanted a share of the same in peacetime. Stop the men casting a watchful and wary eye over them as they did so. They couldn't complain. After all, they were doing much the same, entertaining themselves in the battle-scarred cities of Europe, waiting to be demobbed.
At this Viennese Gymkhana, the big hit of the show is the removal of a wheel while traveling at speed. As a rule, where there's a wheel, there's a weight.
There's a crowd of relatives and friends at Rye House in Hertfordshire to watch the